What up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NFL podcast back for week 15. I got the crew with me. I got Stoyo in Canada.
What's going on? Back for another week. Let's talk some football.
Hell yeah, and I got Gavin, Heslop in Oregon.
Hello, hello.
Alright, let's get to it. We had some great action. It started out Thursday night with the Broncos trotting past the Colts 25-13 at Lucas Oil Field. The Colts dropped their fifth straight. Trevor Siemian got the start, but didn't last long. Went out in the second drive of the game. Suffered a partially dislocated shoulder, and did not return. Brock Osweiler stepped in as his backup and threw for 194 and 2 touchdowns. Broncos running back C.J. Anderson goes off for 158 rushing yards. Stoya, what do you think of this game?
I think it was a battle to see who's going to have a better draft pick.
Yeah.
And, yeah, Osweiler looked good out there, but this is probably the last time he's going to be playing for the Broncos.
Yeah, it was nice to see him have a decent game. But, I mean, I don't know how much it means going forward. Not a real impactful game. What do you think of this, Gavin?
Yeah, it was, really meant a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
There's inferior quarterbacks showing up on Thursday night. The best part about this game was the uniforms that the Broncos were wearing. That was about it.
Yeah, I agree. Those were sick. Another aspect, talking about the Colts, rehabbing quarterback Andrew Luck may need a biceps tendonitis surgery going forward. What do you guys think of the Colts' future?
It's all about the QB. I mean, if he heals correctly, then it's a bright future. But if Andrew Luck has a career-ending injury, then they're back at square one. Is there a possibility that they're going to draft a QB in the first round this time? The same thing that happened when Peyton got hurt? I don't know yet. It's going to be another difficult decision for the Colts.
Yeah, what do you think, Gavin? I mean, if you're running the Colts, you got to be a little concerned about Luck.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little tougher than it was when Andrew Luck was coming in and Peyton Manning was facing his injuries, because I don't think there's a quarterback that's considered as much of a lock as Andrew Luck was coming into the league this season. There's question marks around all the top draft choices, so it's not as much of a sure thing as people would consider Luck coming in. They're expecting probably a 3 to 6 month recovery time for Luck for this surgery that he's supposedly going to require. So he could be back by the beginning of next season, but we were also expecting him to be back 2 or 3 games into the current season. So, I guess I'll take that with a grain of salt. But I would think that they would either try and deal Luck, which would be difficult. They wouldn't get a whole lot for him. And they'd only do that, I think, if they feel really confident about one of the quarterbacks in the draft. You don't move on from, a potential Hall of Fame quarterback, if Luck can continue on for an unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, tough spot to be in for Indy. I think they felt like they had a franchise quarterback for years to come, and now it's a little bit up in the air, but hope the best for Andrew Luck. Hope he comes back strong. On Saturday, the Lions beat up the Bears 20-10 in Ford Field to stay alive in the playoff hunt. They improved to 8-6. Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford throws for 237, 2 touchdowns, and no turnovers. The Bears rookie quarterback Trubisky throws for 314 and a touchdown, but also 3 costly interceptions. Bears head coach John Fox suffers double-digit losses for the 3rd straight season. Stoyo, how do you feel about the Bears right now?
I'm over the Bears right now. Just a solid performance after Cincinnati I was a little bit more optimistic. At least I thought it was going to be a competitive game, but we're in the division. This is the 8th game in a row we lost against division opponents, so I need to understand that we don't take our division game seriously, and we just suck.
Yeah,
I want to give credit to the Lions. Their secondary is great. Their QB is good. And, yeah, they whooped our asses fair and square. It wasn't even that close of a game.
yeah,
It could have been like a 25-point victory. So, yeah, we're in a tough spot. And I'm looking forward to some changes in the next 2 weeks.
yeah.
In 2 weeks, it'll be Black Monday, and hopefully Fox is out of there. Hopefully Pace is out of there. And also the team president, Ted Phillips, needs to be gone.
Yeah. Hopefully some dominoes fall. It's not a fun game to watch. Not a fun season to watch. It's tough to watch Bears football, and I hope we get it fixed soon because we're a proud organization with some proud fans, and we're tired of being, not even competitive, especially in our own division. And you're not going to go anywhere if you can't win anything in the division. Gavin, the Lions seem right in the middle of a playoff run. They have a decently easy schedule to finish out. If they win out, they'll be 10-6 and right there to get into the playoffs. You think they can get in?
I think they have a chance. I think it all hinges on whether Aaron Rodgers plays in Week 17, and more importantly, maybe is whether they can protect Matthew Stafford through these next 2 games. Despite the win and no interceptions or turnovers from Stafford, they did surrender 4 sacks and to the Bears, and the Lions have been dealing with some injuries in the quarterback position. And so if they can't keep Stafford upright, they're not going to be able to win games because he is definitely the cornerstone for that offense.
Yeah.
The good news for you guys is Aaron Rodgers has been placed on IR today.
Yep.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yep. So you guys will be facing Brett Hundley, and you'll also be playing the Bengals. So decent chance to win out and be right there. That secondary is badass. I'll give them credit. Those guys know what they're doing. So good young team there in Detroit. We'll see how it finishes out, but good win over the Bears. Winning the division is always important. Saturday night, the Chiefs got a must-win over the Chargers to improve to 8-6. They won 30-13 in Arrowhead, and now control their own destiny in the AFC West. Chiefs quarterback Alex Smith throws for 231 and 2 touchdowns and no turnovers. Phillip Rivers of the Chargers throws for 227 and 3 interceptions. On the season, in 2 games against Kansas City, Phillip Rivers has thrown for 1 touchdown and 6 picks. The X factor for the Chiefs seems to be their rookie running back Kareem Hunt, who got back on track with 206 total yards and 2 touchdowns. And their corner Marcus Peters got 2 interceptions in the game as well. Gavin, you picked the Chiefs to win this game. Impressive performance by them.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you about the running game. Kareem Hunt getting back on track. He's been a significant part of the offense over the last 2 games when they got impressive wins in the division, and he was obviously a critical part of their season starting out when they were on such a tear. So they need to try and keep him going, keep him motivated, and open some lanes for him over the next 2 games because they have to, if they want to try and keep their spot in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think the Chiefs if they get hot at the right time, that's 2 straight wins, big wins in the division. We'll see how they finish out. But if they could potentially finish out on a 4-game winning streak or something, they could be hot going into the playoffs and make it interesting. Stoyo, what do you think of this game? I know you picked the Chargers. They were hot. They were hot going in, but tough performance for them.
Yeah, it was a close game till the 4th quarter. I was deadly wrong. I thought the Chargers were going to take care of business. But at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs defense came through. What a game for Marcus, don't flag me, Peters.
Yeah.
2 picks and a fumble. That is a great game after being suspended last week.
Yeah, including a big third down stop, big tackle. Marcus Peters has been labeled as a bad tackler, but he put his head down and made a big stop. Great game for Marcus Peters. What do you think is wrong with the Chargers? Why does Phillip Rivers struggle against Kansas City?
I would like to think that in division games, the team know each other a lot better.
Yeah.
And since they play each other twice a year, the cornerbacks have possibly Chargers' number because he's been there for the last God knows how many years.
Yeah. Yep. Impressive performance. We'll be watching the Chiefs going forward. On Sunday, speaking of two teams that know each other well, the Bills stampede past the Dolphins 24-16 in Orchard Park. They improved to 8-6. Buffalo quarterback Tyrod Taylor throws for 224 and a touchdown. Bills running back LaShawn McCoy eclipses 10,000 career rushing yards in the win. We got to see good Jay Cutler last week in the win over the Patriots, but this week bad Jay Cutler shows up once again. Throws for 274, but 3 interceptions. The Bills stay alive in the playoff hunt. Gavin, what do you think of the Bills going forward? Nice win for them.
Yeah, definitely a big win, and obviously needed in order to try and stay alive in the keep their role in the playoff hunt, because it's a pretty tight there for the wild card in the AFC. Big win for the division. They do have 2 equally important games coming up: the Patriots in Foxborough, and then the Dolphins again down in Miami.
Nice.
And with a lot of teams chasing them for their wild card spot, I think they're going to have to continue to make a push and continue to start the superior quarterback, Tyrod Taylor.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nice to see the Bills even in it this late in the year. It's got to be refreshing to Buffalo fans to have meaningful football in December. Stoyo, we praised Jay Cutler last week, but bad Jay Cutler shows up this week with the 3 picks and a good divisional game. What do you think of the Dolphins and Cutler?
I'm so happy Cutler is not a Chicago Bear anymore because I couldn't handle the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
Beating New England, he threw 3 picks, and yesterday or 2 days ago he threw 3 touchdowns, and now he has 3 picks and 4 fumbles.
Yeah.
He didn't lose any of those fumbles, but he still had them. So yeah, I am just glad I don't have to deal with that crazy right anymore. And yeah, my heart is very thankful.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately the Dolphins are probably not gonna make the playoffs.
Yep.
But even though they're kind of in an off year because their star QB got hurt, they're still 6-8.
Yeah.
And they have to play the Buffalo Bills again. So maybe 7-9 or 8-8 is not out of the question. And for a bad off year, that is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's not, but I mean, I was optimistic of the Dolphins at the beginning of the year when they brought in Cutler, and this just goes to show you another shining example of why you don't bring Cutler in, really. I mean, Adam Gase is the perfect fit offensive coordinator for him, or play caller at least, and it just doesn't work out, and, they're below 500. The Ravens fly past the winless Browns 28-10 in Cleveland. Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco throws for 288 and a touchdown. Browns quarterback Deshaun Kaiser continues to struggle. Throws for 146 yards but commits 3 turnovers. Browns head coach Hugh Jackson falls to 1-29 as their coach. And there's rumors out there that the Bengals might be interested in making a trade offer for Hugh Jackson after Marvin Lewis resigns. But Browns' new GM, John Dorsey, just came out and said that he expects Hugh Jackson to be back next season, despite the record. Stoyo, what do you think of the Browns?
The Browns are the worst team in the NFL. So there's that. I think they did a good job hiring that GM.
Yeah.
He comes from Kansas City, and he has a decent record. So I think that the arrow is looking up, and it kind of has to, since you only won one game in the past 2 seasons. But you do have the Chicago Bears on your schedule next week, so you're about to get your first win of the year.
Got it.
Not going to be embarrassing 0-16.
God, I hope not. I mean, if we let the Browns win, we can take solace in, the fact that we kept the Lions as the only winless 0-16 team. But man, if we lose the Browns, I'm not gonna be happy. It's gonna be just adding to what an awful year it's been for Chicago.
I have a bad feeling we're gonna lose. Honestly, we need to win, but
hey,
it's just too perfect.
It's in Chicago. If we lose the Browns in Chicago, I'm sure the Boo Birds will be out. Gavin, the Ravens improved to 8-6, still alive in the playoff hunt. You think they can find a way to sneak in?
Yeah, I'd say so. They've got 2 easy games coming up. I'd say they got the Colts at home, and then the Bengals at home as well.
Nice.
Both teams that are struggling. It might be a tough one there. Week 17, the Bengals will be Marvin Lewis's last game, and a divisional game. So Bengals, I'm sure, will come in and try and put up a fight. But they're just one game out of the playoff hunt right now. They're actually tied with the Bills and the Titans as far as record goes. But so any one of those teams loses, the Ravens has a chance of still making a wild card spot.
Nice. I hope they get in. I'd like to see the Ravens in the playoffs. They have a pretty good defense. Flacco may be a little inconsistent, but if he gets it going at the right time, you never know.
Before we move on, I just want to say that I hope that the Cleveland Browns win one game this year.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the Bears. It would be awesome if it's the Bears, but even if it's not, I hope they do, because I don't want to share any records with the Browns. I'd rather be worse than the Browns as long as I'm not sharing any records with them. So.
All right, I'll take that. That's what's up. All right, speaking of the Bengals, the Vikings cruise past them 34-7 in Minnesota. Third straight Bengals loss. The Vikings improved to 11-3. Minnesota quarterback Case Keenum throws for 236 and 2 touchdowns. Their running back Jerick McKinnon catches 7 passes for 114 yards. Andy Dalton once again struggles, only throwing for 113 yards and 2 picks. Before this game, like we mentioned earlier, Marvin Lewis, the Bengals head coach, announced that he will not return next season. Stoyo, the Vikings improved to 11-3, looking good as the playoffs come up. They look dangerous, especially with Carson Wentz out. How far do you think the Vikings can go?
I think they're gonna go to the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
Especially, I love that defense. That offense also has a lot of weapons. Case Keenum is the perfect quarterback for them. He does just enough for them to win, doesn't create a lot of turnovers, and I thought the Eagles were slightly the better team.
Yeah.
But since they lost Wentz, I think Minnesota comes out as the number 1 team in the NFC in my mind. Also, I want to point out that Teddy Bridgewater made a comeback on the field, and it was quite moving seeing the stadium and the fans welcome him back.
Absolutely. It's good.
That was just a good effort coming back from like a gruesome injury. I'm glad he was able to make it back to the field.
Yeah, we don't often talk about the strenuous rehab that like an injury like that would require. And just to get yourself back into football shape and back on the field, he deserves a lot of props for that. That rehab's got to be tough. You got doubters along the way. So props to Teddy Bridgewater. He came back. He was under center. I know he threw a pick, but it's very encouraging that he was back on the field. Gavin, I remember you saying earlier in the season that Marvin Lewis. We always think Marvin Lewis is going to be gone at the end of the season, but now he's actually gone. What do you think the Bengals are going to do moving forward?
Yeah, it's not surprising that it seems like he's going out on his own terms.
Yep.
I think we knew the management wasn't ever going to fire him themselves, and so he's put together a relatively impressive record there in Cincinnati. Took them to more playoff games than they had been in a long time leading up to his tenure there. He didn't win any of those games, but making it is better than not even showing up to the dance at all. But I've heard rumors that he might look for a GM position, quite possibly there in Cincinnati.
Nice.
So that could be kind of interesting to see how that plays out, if that's what ends up happening.
Yeah. Whatever happens, I wish the best for Marvin Lewis. I think he's a hell of a coach. And I think he accomplished a lot in Cincinnati despite not ever getting a playoff win. I still think that the Bengals were a joke before he got there, and he had a lot of success there.
Would you take him in Chicago?
Yeah, I would. I mean, he's an old school coach, but I would take him. Yeah, I would take him. The Saints march past the Jets, 31-19 in New Orleans. Saints quarterback Drew Brees throws for 285 and 2 touchdowns. The Jets start quarterback Bryce Petty, who throws for 179 yards and 2 picks. Saints running back Mark Ingram collects 151 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Stoyo, the Saints looking good. They stay atop the NFC South. What do you think of the Saints going forward? Do you think that Drew Brees might have a shot at going for a second ring?
Absolutely. I think the key for the Saints and any playoff teams right now is to stay healthy.
Yep.
And, get through and just make it to the playoffs. And then it's anyone's game. The Eagles are hurt, so that's always good for the rest of the teams in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Drew Brees and Ben Roethlisberger would love to go out on top.
Yeah.
And I think that both would retire if they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm always for. I wouldn't say I've been a Saints fan or a Drew Brees fan his entire career, but I'm always for a veteran quarterback going out on top. So that would be a good story to see going forward. Gavin, what do you think of the Saints and that two-headed running back monster they got going on there?
Yeah, they've got a great combination there in running backs. I've said it before. The ability for both guys to run between the tackles and get open space out of the backfield is perfect for Drew Brees and what he likes to work with. And lots of people have been talking this season about Drew Brees and how they've been winning games despite him not having to throw for 550 yards every game like we all expect him to. And I think it's really be interesting to see what happens come playoff time because he's going to be facing some tough defenses. In the Eagles, the Vikings, the Panthers, the Rams. Assuming that those guys all make it, he could face any combination of those, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens if he has to turn it up and whether he's been holding back because he hasn't needed it, or whether possibly he doesn't have it anymore because he's a little bit older.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Any of those matchups would be a great matchup. I can't wait to see how they respond. The Eagles earn a hard-fought division win in New York against the Giants 34-29 to clinch a first-round bye in the playoffs. The Eagles started Nick Foles for the injured Carson Wentz, who threw for 237 and 4 touchdowns. Giants quarterback Eli Manning threw for 434 and 3 touchdowns, but it wasn't quite enough. The Giants receiver Sterling Shepard caught 11 passes for 139 and a touchdown. Stoyo, who dat gonna beat them Eagles?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised that Eli Manning is still able to play football, shouldn't he be rotting somewhere on the bench? Oh, wait. He still can play.
Yeah.
Shocker there.
Shocker.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are gonna have to hide their QB and just trying to make something happen in the playoffs. They're gonna have a first round bye, which is good for them. But honestly, I hate to say it, but that's gonna be it. I don't think they can beat anyone without Carson Wentz. I could be wrong. I'm sorry, Eagles fan. It was a great run, but unfortunately, your star QB got hurt. Maybe I'm wrong because Nick Foles is a good QB, a good backup, but I'm gonna go out on the limb and say they're not gonna win the game in the playoff.
Yeah, that's very interesting. There's a lot of people out there saying that they continue to buy in the Eagles. I'm a little bit with you on that. I mean, it's the quarterback play has to be elite come January. What do you think, Gavin? Are you along that same way of thinking about the Eagles?
Yeah, I think when Wentz got hurt, a lot of the talk for those people that were saying that Foles might be able to have some success is that would be mostly on the back of the Eagles defense that had been playing so well all season, but they just allowed 434 yards and 3 touchdowns to Eli Manning that was without his best receiver and had really been struggling throughout the majority of the year.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to say whether this is a struggling Eagles defense or a revival of Eli Manning after being benched. But their coach Doug Peterson said you can't play like this and win, especially in the playoffs, and he's absolutely right. They're going to have to play some better defense, or Nick Foles is going to have to turn into Carson Wentz.
Yeah, exactly. I think that losing your star quarterback has got to be deflating to a team like that. Maybe their defense wasn't as focused, but I agree with both of you that if the Eagles are going to go anywhere, it's going to be on the back of their defense and their running game. I think Foles is a decent backup, but he's not elite, and there's a lot of good defenses in the NFC. The Redskins rebound at home versus the Cardinals, 20-15 in DC. Kirk Cousins throws for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cardinals quarterback Blaine Gabbert struggles, going 16 for 41 for 189 yards and 2 turnovers. Redskins defensive end Anthony Lanier collects 2 sacks in the win. Stoyo, this game doesn't really matter that much, but the Redskins improved to 6-8. What do you take away from this game?
The Redskins are an average football team.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I can take from it. And it depends what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins during the offseason.
What do you think of the Cardinals' Blaine Gabbert?
Don't care. I'm surprised he's still in the lead. I thought they would find someone better.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm biased, but I never had a high opinion of Blaine Gabbert.
Hey, yeah.
His career rating is 71.
Wow.
It's better than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought it was more going to be like 62, but yeah, he had a solid season apparently 2 years ago for the 49ers, but besides that, it's been difficult. I remember him from Jacksonville, and as a starter, his first year, his QB rating was 65, then 77, then 36.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Gavin.
He's not a very good QB.
Gavin, I'm interested to hear what you say on this. Kirk Cousins has been in the league for a couple of years now. He's never made the playoffs. He as a starter. He keeps getting these franchise tags that are big money. On the open market, he's going to demand a lot of money, and yet once again the Redskins are missing out on the playoffs, sitting at 6-8. What do you think of Kirk Cousins? Do you think the Redskins should re-sign him? Do you think he's worth it? Where do you see Kirk Cousins going from here? As far as success goes.
I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's definitely above average. I don't think he's elite, though. That being said, he's still going to get paid a massive contract once the Redskins finally let him go or don't franchise him.
Yeah.
I believe they have 1 year that they can still franchise him. So they might do that again, just because it's difficult to give up a quarterback that can win you some games, and I believe Kirk Cousins certainly can. The big question is going to be whether the Redskins are able to sign him to a long-term deal. I think that he feels a bit disrespected by them because they continue to franchise him and not put their faith in him by giving him a multi-year deal. But I think if they do franchise him again and they continue to struggle, I think he's going to be out of there, because I also think that Gruden will be gone as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Stoyo, do you think that Kirk Cousins has much help there in Washington?
No, I think they could have done a better job surrounding him with more receivers.
Yeah.
They have Crowder and just a bunch of nobody.
They had Terrell Pryor, but he didn't do much this year at all.
No.
I don't know.
It's hard to plan long term when your QB is just on a yearly contract.
Yeah, that's true. Washington needs to figure themselves out and stop being an average football team. We all miss the Redskins when they were getting into the playoffs and contending in the NFC East. The Panthers claw their way past the Packers 31-24 in Charlotte. Cam Newton throws for 242 and 4 touchdowns. The return of the Packers' Aaron Rodgers was a lot of people were excited about that. He throws for 290, 3 touchdowns, but uncharacteristically 3 interceptions. Looked a little rusty. Panthers tight end Greg Olsen had 9 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. Gavin, this is not what I expected out of Aaron Rodgers coming back. I know he was rusty. Huge win for the Panthers, though.
Yeah, must win for the Panthers, given they're trying to fight their way for their division win or maintain a wild card spot, and a big stand for their defense, getting 3 picks from Aaron Rodgers. I know he was rusty, and I'm not surprised to see him throw a pick or 2, but 3 is definitely uncharacteristic for him. I'm sure it's been a long time since he's done that, if ever. Big win for the Panthers, and great show by Cam Newton on the field, not only in his play but also in his banter with the defense.
Exactly.
That was fantastic. The back and forth between Cam and Clay Matthews about the wheel route.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Stoyo. If you've been known to wear a green and yellow 52 on your necklace, you may want to skip this. Microphones picked up Clay Matthews, a linebacker of the Packers, calling out the wheel route at the line of scrimmage. And Cam Newton heard this and responded, "You've been watching film, huh? That's cool, watch this." And then throws a 7-yard slant touchdown to running back Christian McCaffrey. How'd you feel about this, Stoya?
You sent me that clip, and I watched it like 10 times in a row. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it's just being burned on the field. He just got roasted, and it wasn't even close. I would love to be able to trash talk like that on national television and just dominate. What a game for Cam Newton. He had 4 TDs, 242 yards, and 58 rushing yards. So over 300 yards of offense.
Yeah.
No fumbles, no picks. He just came through again for Carolina.
Yeah, people can say what they want about Cam Newton. They can hate on him for this and that, being too cocky, celebrating too much. But Cam Newton is a hell of a player to watch. And I love shit like this. I love banter on the field. It's cool that the microphones pick this up. And he's just fun to watch. And I'm rooting for the Panthers in the postseason. I hope they get in, and I hope that they got a good team there. Gavin, some bad news in this game. Panthers linebacker Thomas Davis gets a helmet-to-helmet hit on Packers Devontae Adams. He was suspended for 2 games for that, then appealed, and it was reduced to 1 game. What do you think of this hit, and did you think that a suspension was warranted?
Absolutely. Direct helmet to helmet. It was even worse a hit than Danny Trevathan's on Devontae Adams again.
Yeah.
Earlier in the season. It's a shame that Adams took 2 brutal hits like that. I know that Adams went on a little rant on Twitter saying how you can't be doing stuff like that. You're supposed to be, while you're supposed to be together on the field even while facing each other. You're supposed to be a family, and so why you put a dirty hit out like that? And Thomas apologized profusely again on Twitter. He had as well to the media saying there was an accident, but they can't let these kind of hits keep happening.
Yeah.
And this one, there was no. I struggle to find an excuse for him at this point, other than he just wasn't thinking. And was just trying to get some sort of hit on him. But it definitely deserved the suspension. I'm not surprised they dropped it to 1, because that's kind of been how they have been approaching these kinds of hits throughout the year. Although that being said, I do wish they would just stand their ground. If they feel like it's worthy of 2 games, make it 2 games and just stick with it, because it's frustrating for me to see these suspensions get reduced. It's like if you're okay with 1, why did you go with 2? Like, what new information did you learn? Surely the player couldn't have said anything to change your mind about what they did. You have 1,000 different angles, slow motion, replay all over, and you're still, giving back games to these guys. Make it 1 game and stick with it, or make it 2 and stick with it, or don't, just stick with what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the NFL should be more. I know they're trying to make a statement out of these, and 2 games almost seems necessary. I'll say this: Thomas Davis is a veteran. He's been in the league a long time. This is the first time I've ever seen Thomas Davis do something dirty, so I'm glad it was reduced. I also agree that head-to-head hits are dangerous, especially when they're blindside and not expected, and it's definitely an illegal play. The NFL has certainly made a stance here that they care much more about head injuries than they do knee injuries based on last week's issues. But I'll let that go.